This is Dish and Dirt with Gary Pickren, South Carolina's only podcast dedicated to the real estate agent craft. And now, the host of Dish and Dirt, Gary Pickren.
And greetings, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Dish and Dirt, #1 real estate podcast in South Carolina. I'm your often opinionated, rarely wrong host, Gary Pickren, coming to you from the beautiful downtown Columbia, South Carolina offices of Blair, Cato, Pickren, Castelline. This, the last week of June 2025. No episode next week, because as y'all know, next week is the 4th of July, Friday, but we will return the following week with a brand new episode of Dish and Dirt. You know, this year is the 249th year of our country, and there will be certainly some cool celebrations this year, but next year is going to be really cool. I cannot wait to see the 250th anniversary celebrations. I am old enough to remember the 1976 celebrations when we were 200 years old, and it seemed like that entire year was celebration after celebrations. So can't wait to see what America will do next year for the 4th of July. Now, after this coming week, we'll be back with a brand new episode of Dish and Dirt, and we have a lot to cover in the weeks to come. For example, the Real Estate Commission has been issuing a lot of guidance letters recently. It's one of the things that we've talked about. The Real Estate Commission, instead of being reactive, let's be proactive and look and find these issues. And instead of waiting for a real estate agent to violate one of these statutes and then have to punish them, why don't we go ahead and try to help prevent these types of things from happening, thus protecting the public? And so we started issuing a lot of guidance letters over the last couple of months. I think there's 5 or 6 that we'll kind of talk about over the next couple of weeks, but we do have a couple others that are in the works that should be coming out. There should be a really good one on agency, and there also will be one talking about licensed and unlicensed assistants, who pays them and how they get paid and what's the minimum they can be paid and so forth. So a lot of good things coming out over the next few weeks just on what the Real Estate Commission's done. My friend John Smith also sent me a great article on the Gibson versus NAR lawsuit. This was the first copycat case after the Sitzer Burdett case, and there's a lot of things going on in the Gibson case that could affect how you practice real estate. So we're going to talk about Gibson, what that means, how that case could apply to your work. There's also another thing that's happening in the government right now, and it's FinCEN. And I know a lot of y'all are like, oh, FinCEN's gone. We don't have to worry about that. They permanently delayed all of that reporting. Yes and no. The stuff that y'all were going to have to report on the LLCs that's done. It seems to be done. But FinCEN's a shit show. And the sad thing is most of the Congress people, senators, they have no idea that this part hasn't been delayed. And there is a tremendous financially cost prohibitive report that we have to do as closing attorneys if this doesn't get changed by October. And it's going to result in an hour and a half per transaction that qualifies of reporting requirements. So that fee is going to have to be passed on to those consumers. Now, what is that going to be? Well, it mainly involves cash transactions or transactions using a non-institutional lender. So if you work with an investor or a builder or developer that uses money that doesn't come from a traditional bank like Bank of America or a traditional lending source like Guild Mortgage or Foundation Mortgage, somebody of that nature, then we're going to have to do these reportings. Buyers that are using non-traditional lenders or paying cash that are putting their properties in some type of entity, an LLC, a company, a corporation, or a partnership of that nature. And so it's hundreds upon hundreds in a firm this size. The problem is, from what we understand from ALTA, the American Land Title Association, is that the information is about 100 and something entries, and it takes about an hour and a half. And it's very intrusive. We have to ask your buyer all the owners of that entity, their social security number, their date of birth, their full legal names, their bank information. This isn't stuff that your clients are going to want to readily give up. But the problem is, if they don't give it up, then the closing is not going to happen, because no law firm that has a brain will do a closing if this FinCEN continues to go through in October in these situations without having this information. Because after they close, if the consumer doesn't cooperate, then the law firm can be on the hook for a daily fine that can be thousands and thousands of dollars. After 30 days, I mean, it can literally get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars for fines. It's terrible. I'm hoping NAR and BIA and all the other organizations will get in front of Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott and all them and say, look, we appreciate the fact that you're trying to stop money laundering, but this ain't the way to do it. This is going to be very expensive, time consuming, and it's really, in my opinion, it's going to stop people from moving property from their personal name into a company name, because who wants to complete an hour and a half of paperwork and be charged hundreds and hundreds of dollars for that paperwork just so you can do that. So that's going to be a big disaster. Erica Lybrand is going to join me after the 4th of July on that next episode, and we're going to talk about this. She was in Washington, D.C. lobbying against this just a couple of weeks ago. So she's going to tell us all the bad news, and as well as how none of your Congress people have a clue what's going on. So if you're looking to Congress to help you, that's your first mistake, because nothing is ever helpful in the government. From what she's telling me, the government has no clue what they're doing with this, which shouldn't surprise anybody if you've been alive for the last 30 years to think that the government has any clue. Today's show, what we're going to talk about the issues that the Real Estate Commission has already issued a guidance on. And this is about the legal issues related to artificial intelligence in South Carolina. Real estate agents are clearly using AI. So what I did is, let's use AI. I went on to AI myself. I went to Google AI and I said, what percentage of real estate agents are using AI in their practice? And this is the response that Google AI said. A significant majority, in fact, 87% of real estate agents are now using some form of AI, according to a survey that was done by Delta AI Surveys. And if you look at that 87%, that's almost complete adoption of AI tools in the industry. I mean, 87%, 13% aren't even doing anything in the industry. So if 87% of agents say they are using it, it means the entire industry is using it. And what we also found is that all the brokers in charge, the team leaders and so forth, they've become a lot more comfortable with AI. And only a very small percentage of those brokers, owners, team leaders, and things of that nature express any type of high level of concern about its use, which is good. It means everybody's adopting it, but everybody should have some concern as to how it's being used. Is it being used properly, or are we violating any types of law? The survey said that for the most part, the most common uses of real estate agents for AI were crafting property descriptions, generating marketing materials, writing personal bios. If you are a real estate agent, those are excellent tools. In fact, you can go on AI like ChatGTP and say, here are the bullet points for my property. Please write this in a description. And you can even tell what tone you want it written in. You can have it professional, friendly, humorous, and things of that nature. And so using it for property descriptions, even if you write your own property descriptions, it's still good to run it through to see if it sounds right. Did you have any grammatical mistakes and things of that nature? AI is also very good at generating marketing materials. You can ask it to create 10 posts for a real estate agent in Columbia, South Carolina that talk about the following issues. You can say, I'm a real estate agent in Myrtle Beach, and I'd like to have 10 postable events that I can use for fraud and the fraud that my buyer consumers might be facing. So you can do all kind of things like that for marketing. The problem, of course, with the risk of that is it tends to sound like AI. So you got to be very careful that what you have written doesn't sound like something a computer generated. And the way to do that, obviously, is the larger the prompts, the better the prompts, the better. So if you were to simply go in and say, I'm a lawyer, please write me the following, it usually doesn't come out very well. But if you go in and write a full 10, 15, 20 sentences, I'm a lawyer, I'm working on this type of case, the issues are these are the things that we need to highlight, and you really set out the parameters of what you want, then it does better. So the idea there is the more you give AI, the better. A lot of people think if I put too much information in there, it'll get confused. Back in the day, if you were doing a Google search and you put a lot of information, it would just give you information all over the place. But that's not how AI works, particularly with ChatGTP. The more information you get or you give it, the better it does. And you can also say, don't include information about it, or include only this information, or we want information only from the last 5 years. So there's a lot of things you can do. And the better information you give it, the better it will come out. Now, the interesting thing I think also about that stat of 87% is it really should be 100. Because if you're a real estate agent and you own a smartphone, you are in fact using AI technology. Anytime you use anything on smartphone, it's all based on AI technology. If you go on there and say, how many properties are for sale currently right now in Spartanburg County, Google will give you an answer based on its internet search. Well, that's all AI generated. That's how it's coming up with that information. If you've ever used a Zillow to look at a Zillow estimate, the Zillow estimates are all based on algorithms created by AI. So the reality of it is anybody that's a real estate agent or anybody looking to buy a property or probably selling it, at some point they've done something that's been involving AI, whether it's going to Zillow or going on their phone and simply asking information. Well, certainly this AI thing's a passing fad, right? I mean, this will go away, certainly. I mean, it has to go away. It's just like the internet went away and social media went away for real estate. I'm sure that AI will go away as well. Not according to Terry LeClaire. She's a leading real estate trainer in the country, and she recently told Emma News, her quote is this: This isn't a passing trend, it's a transformational opportunity. We heard that after the Sitzer Burnett case. AI is not about replacing agents, but empowering them with tools to streamline their business, amplify productivity, and elevate client services. I think she is 1000% correct here. It is not a passing trend. It is not going to go away. It is transformational. Those people who understand it and take advantage of it and use it will not be replaced. In fact, it will make their jobs better. They'll write better property descriptions. They'll write better MLS postings. They will be able to come up with better language to include in marketing and advertising. They will actually be able to use it to help manage their expenses and their costs in their business. It will streamline what they're doing, and it will help make them more productive with less people. I mean, maybe if I was a transaction coordinator, I might be a little concerned because I believe a lot of AI can be used to do some of those jobs that maybe we have assistants or transaction coordinators to do. We have AI here in our office as well that does a lot of things that we used to have multiple people do. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So I think Terry is correct that it's not a passing trend. It's just like the internet. It's just like social media. It is a transformational opportunity. And those agents who take advantage of it will be successful. Those agents who fight it will not be. And so you're going to have to embrace AI more than you already do. Carrie Little, who is the managing broker at Carmark Realty in West Chicago, she recently said to NAR in an interview that in reality, AI is a tool, not a replacement. And when used properly, it can enhance your business without taking away the human touch that real estate requires. You can create all this AI that you want to follow up, to operate in CRMs, to write better script, but real estate truly is a human touch business. South Carolina business is a very hands-on, human touch friendly business. The more business is friendly and has human touch and is hands-on, the better those businesses tend to be. That's not to say that AI shouldn't be part of businesses. It should enhance it, but I don't see how AI could ever replace the human touch of a real estate agent because you have to look at what your job is. And a lot of your job involves the human nature that's required of a real estate agent. Of course, we have naysayers. There's no doubt about that. And I read an article on a magazine called Medium, and that's an article written by Bobby Bryant. And here was his headline. It said, "Let's be honest, AI agents are going to replace 80% of real estate agents." First read that, I was like, well, this is going to be bad. This is going to be a bad article. I'm not going to agree with any of it. His article, I think, is not so bad. I think the headline is clickbait in some ways. Here's what he said. Should real estate agents be concerned? And he said, yes, but not all agents should panic, only the ones that aren't good at their jobs. Well, I think that could be said for what's going on in the market today. Sitzer case, the Gibson case, clear cooperation issues, broker to broker issues, and a list of other challenges that we haven't seen. I've been in real estate for 30 years, and outside of COVID and 9/11 and things like that, I don't really ever remember a market being so challenged with legal matters, market issues, and things of that nature as we are today. So sure, if you're not a good agent, I would be panicked even outside of AI. I would just be panicked because after Sitzer Burnett, I don't know how to discuss my compensation, which still utterly amazes me that we're nearing a year into this. And there's some agents that still don't understand compensation. They still don't know how to explain it. They still are calling other agents saying, what are you offering for compensation? Which it doesn't matter because nothing's binding if it's not in the contract because it's not binding on the MLS. So anytime you call me and say, what are you offering? I'm offering 10% in a new Ferrari. I mean, it doesn't matter because none of that's binding. But we have agents today that still don't understand it. So, yes, he's 100% right. Those that aren't good at their job should be fearful of AI because those are the people who don't think they do anything except show houses. But he also said, let's be brutally honest, AI won't destroy the industry. It's just going to expose it. And he's right. It's going to expose those agents. And this is what he also said, agents who close 0 to 3 deals per year, don't follow up and rely on outdated tactics. They're likely done. And honestly, the industry may be better off. That's not maybe, it will be better off. He continues, will AI eliminate bad agents and repurpose the rest? And if he's not wrong on this aspect. He said it will eliminate dead weight. Now, there's 70% of real estate agents, or 74%, I think it was, that didn't even do a deal at all last year. As this market continues to change, not only from AI, but Sitzer Burnett, clear cooperation, broker to broker, and all the other issues, it's very hard for those agents to continue to justify their existence. If you're doing one deal a year because you like to have a license and somebody at the church might want to do a deal with you, that's great. It gets harder and harder for you to maintain the level of knowledge and expertise that you need as a real estate agent. AI will probably accelerate some of those leaving. We know, and it's going to be very interesting at June 30th when we get to see how many agents did not renew. But we do know a lot of agents are not renewing as this marketplace has changed from a speed market more to a skills market. A lot of these agents that got licensed during COVID and found it to be easy are now finding it's not so easy, and it takes work to be a real estate agent. You know, being a real estate agent is not just a job, it's a career. I think this will also, as he says, empower the top 20%. So the top 20% who do about 95 to 99% of the business, those agents are going to be able to scale better. They're going to be able to set policies and procedures and create better work product. So according to Bobby Bryant, are good real estate agents safe? And he says, for now, yes. I say, yes, they will be. They embrace these tools. They become the expert in their business. They learn how to use the tools, but also how to maintain those personal relationships and build that authentic relationship and approach. But those who don't understand their role, those agents probably are in trouble. If you're a real estate agent who believes all you do is help somebody search for a house, that that's what your role is to help find them a house, then yeah, AI can do that. You could go on AI and put your parameters of what you're looking for, and it'll spit out everything you're looking for. Then how hard is it for Zillow or Realtor.com or one of those to create the algorithm that narrows the properties down, creates a nice little 5 or 10 house list, and even allows you to schedule the appointments right there online. And so if that's what you believe your job is, then yeah, you probably will be out. But that's not what a real estate agent does. The top 20% know this. Their job is as much a researcher as it is advisor and counselor, an advocate, but you're also a psychologist, and keeping a deal together and keeping people from jumping off the ledge and saying, I'm quit, I'm out of this deal. Helping consumers work from I think I want to buy a house all the way through closing involves many different hats and many different skill sets. It's not just running an algorithm to find them the house they want and say, here's your house, I'll see you at closing. If you understand your role, you embrace that role, AI cannot replace you because it cannot take that human touch away. Now we got to also talk about the issues that the Real Estate Commission says. Where are we seeing AI from a real estate commission standpoint? Where are we seeing it used? I went on Google AI and I asked it, what are real estate agents in South Carolina using AI programs for? And it came back with property valuations and market analysis. You can literally ask it to evaluate properties. You could have 5 or 10 properties. You could upload it in there and have you to create a spreadsheet for you, almost saying what's the similarities and what the differences are, and have it, start with the price, the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, all the features, and you can have it do that. You can take an inspection report that maybe is 150, 200 pages long and upload it, and it can give you an analysis of it and a write-up and each individual point that you need to know, and do it in seconds, what used to take you hours upon hours to read. It does lead generation. It does CRMs for you. I mean, pretty much every CRM now that you have has some form of AI involved in it. Marketing and sales, you got all kind of marketing materials, property descriptions, social media posts, virtual tours, 3D tours. You have all kind of different things that you can do in AI. There's a lot of different things. But again, you got to be careful for what you're doing it for. On a non-legal standpoint, you just got to be very careful that it doesn't sound AI generated. Now, I know there's several of you right now that are saying to yourself, I'm not using AI now. I'm never going to use AI. I'm going to retire before this happens. I'm not learning this new tool. And for you guys, I would say, do you remember the agents who said the same thing about the internet when Al Gore invented the internet, which is a joke. He didn't invent it, but he swore he did on the presidential debate. It's kind of funny. But when Al Gore invented the internet, or when social media first came out, I remember I was probably one of those going, I'm not going to use social media. That's not for me. But there's very few real estate businesses that can survive without the internet. And there's very few businesses that can thrive without constantly using social media. That's where we are now. You have to understand, as a real estate agent, you can't sit here and say to yourself, I'm never going to use it. Cato, our law firm, we're using it to open contracts. We can literally have a contract be scanned by our AI, and it can open it by scrubbing the information from the contract and entering it data entry into our system. And it is more accurate than if a human did it. We have legal descriptions typed. It can pull our title work, and it can scrub title work and pull the legal descriptions, the owners, and certain information from there. It can't do all of the review, but it can do a lot of the legal typing and things involved. You can go to Alana on our website and ask Alana questions, and she can answer questions. That's all AI. Tons of things. And every day we're looking at new AI to make the communication we have with real estate agents better. But we all know, and which is where we're getting to the heart of the matter here, is that anytime you have new technology, social media, whatnot, there's always risks that come. I'll give you an example on the law side. Back when LinkedIn first came out, it was a really neat social media type program where you could really link people together in businesses. And so all these lawyers would go in and we would get all these great profiles on LinkedIn. And then real estate agents could go in and make comments and so forth. In South Carolina, they had a button you could check. Like if I was on LinkedIn and you saw it, you could go in and click the button that says expert in real estate. The problem is in South Carolina, that is against the law for a lawyer to declare themselves an expert in anything unless they have the expert designation. And there's only like 4 or 5 things you can go get expert designation in. Quite frankly, I've never seen the need to do it for what we do. But if you're calling yourself an expert, you're in violation. So the Supreme Court of South Carolina literally had to go to LinkedIn and ask them to please take down that button in South Carolina because it was causing lawyers to violate our professional standards. And so technology has issues. I went on and looked on NAR, National Association of Realtors, and I just wanted to see how much they've written about AI. Since December of 2024, there's been 10 articles written for NAR on AI. On Inman News, they've had 15 articles written in the month of June that deal with algorithms, chat GTP, issues with AI and things of that nature. So it is a big topic. And that's why the Real Estate Commission got involved and said, we got to be careful. We need to warn people where we are on this. So let's look at the warnings coming from the Real Estate Commission. In the very first big part of this guidance letter, which can be found on the Real Estate Commission's homepage, it says the commission is very aware that the use of artificial intelligence is increasing not only in our daily lives, but also in our professional lives and in real estate business. And so the guidance letter is to try to remind those real estate licensees that they have a statutory duty and responsibility to operate their practice in compliance with law, even as it pertains to AI. The Real Estate Commission cites 4057-820, and this is what it says. A licensee under this chapter is responsible for any and all work product produced by him or with the assistance of artificial intelligence, machine learning, or similar programs. A violation of this chapter that is committed through the use of these programs will be treated as if the violation was committed directly by the licensee. So in short, you can't do something in AI, it be wrong, when you have a grievance filed against you, come to the commission and go, well, it was AI. I thought it was right, not my problem. The interpretation to take away from that is that if you're going to use AI for anything involved in practice, you must make sure that it's truthful, it's honest, it's correct, and that it's not in violation of the Real Estate Practice Act. And those agents need to also understand that you are responsible for the items you put out, whether they're AI generated or not. So the real estate agent uses a couple of examples as warning. For example, if an AI program is used to write an advertisement for property being offered for sale and the AI written advertisement misrepresents a material fact regarding the property, then the licensee who created that advertisement could be in trouble and disciplined for making false statements in advertisement, even though you believed that the AI program had it correctly. So you have a duty whenever you use AI to go back and read it and make sure that it is correct and accurate, that it didn't put in false statements or change statements or even omitting statements that necessarily need to be in there also is problematic. Issue number 2 is you have privacy issues for your customers and your clients. Remember, you have a duty of privacy to your client, and you must understand that you have to do what's necessary to maintain the privacy and the security of your customers or clients' personal information and data. When you load things into an AI program, that program typically retains that information so that it can continue to learn off that information. It wants to, what the information is producing, they want to improve it, they want to make it more accurate in the future. So when you enter somebody's personal information or data for your customer or your client in the AI, it's going to retain that. And here's some examples of such things that could be problematic. If you enter names, date of birth, social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, income estimates, any type of personal information that they call PPI or PII, all of that stuff is confidential. The recommendation from the commission is not to provide any specific information when you go to ChatGTP. When I do something, I substitute names out. If I said, I would like you to create a document for a real estate brokerage in Columbia, South Carolina to be used for the following things, I'm going to use for the brokerage ABC brokerage. I'm not going to put in the real name of the brokerage. I'm not going to put in the real name of the agent. I'm not going to put the actual parties in there. They're going to sign the document. So when the document's created, then I'll go in and modify it and add the names I want. You got to be very careful when you use an AI program to produce work product, that you have to understand that that work product is out there in the internet and it can never go away. Use fake names, fake PPI or PI, however you want to look at it, and be very careful. The same thing happens with photos. You have a problem if you upload photos. Some of those photos could be considered to have personal data because it takes GPS coordinates, address of the property. All of that can be found by people who know how to search photos to find that information. Unless you know how to scrub that information from photos, you need to be very careful when you upload pictures to the internet. Once it's taken and put, a picture's taken and put on the internet, we can never get rid of that. You need to understand the same thing. And, if you're putting pictures out there that might have items in the house that are antiques or expensive, once that's out there and AI has it, it could use it for other things. Because if you put a picture of a beautiful house on Lake Wateree and it's got all these antiques in it, and you're not using it for any specific marketing, but you may want it for an internal thing, well, that's out there. And the next time somebody types in, show me a picture of a house with antiques, that picture shows up. And somebody who knows how to use the internet can go in there and try to find the data behind it and find out where that picture was taken. You need to be very careful that you make sure you're removing that metadata, which I don't know how to do. If you don't know how to do it, you need to find out. But either way, the Real Estate Commission is recommending that anything that you're going to be putting on Chat GTP or any type of AI, that you get written permission from the client or customer so that you're in compliance with the law. Because if you don't have that written permission to put that private information up there, you could be in trouble. So again, use common language, don't use specific names, and get permission is the thing you need to do there. Item number 2, we still have the issue of privacy of real estate brokerages. So be careful when you're uploading brokerage documents into AI. You may take a document, put it in there and say, could you reword this, or could you fill in the blanks for me, or whatever. If that is a real estate brokerage form that's been created, copyrighted for your company, you may have just violated your company's policies and procedures. So be very careful before you upload documents that belong to your brokerage into AI, that you are not violating their copyright. And then lastly, you have to ensure that you're complying with South Carolina law. A lot of people are going on AI and having items drafted, descriptions drafted, marketing and advertisement, and it's not perfect. And what's happening here is AI can't necessarily tell the difference between what was posted on the internet as truthful, as a meme, as satire, and it's taking some things as truthful that are not. And so if you're creating information or data from an AI program, it's possible that some of the information could be false. If it's false information and you put it out there, you could be therefore in trouble or could be grieved for disseminating false or misleading or inaccurate information. So you've got to be very careful how you do that. In fact, one of the famous cases that we all talk about is a Utah lawyer had a brief written for a court case, and it brought in fake cases. It cited fake cases that didn't even exist. And the lawyer turned it in. The judge looked up the citations and realized that those citations were all made up. And he ran a big risk of losing his law license. The big key here to take away is understanding your privacy, confidentiality rules, and making sure when you're using AI, you're getting permission and you're proofing what comes out and making sure everything that's there is truthful and accurate. I hope that helps you learn a little bit about where the Real Estate Commission is on AI. We love AI. I think it is a wonderful tool. It's going to help agents, not hurt agents. But you've got to be careful with the privacy and confidentiality issues you have, and you need to make sure that you are following South Carolina law and understand you're responsible for what you put out. So do not come to the Real Estate Commission and go, well, I ran it through AI. I thought it was truthful. You're still going to be held for that. So be very careful with it. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Dish and Dirt. We'll talk about fencing, and we're going to get into some of the other issues that the Real Estate Commission is working on. I hope everybody has a very safe and happy 4th of July. And we look forward to seeing you the week after the 4th of July for another episode of Dish and Dirt. Y'all have a wonderful time over the 4th. Come back and see us. And thank you again for liking, sharing, and subscribing to Dish and Dirt.